Hey everyone, I'm back from my vacation, and all I can say is everyone should be, taking some time off from charts and Discord and whatever else that you're part of. It really does open up your your mind and doesn't always keep you on your toes, always wanting to check charts. So I'm back. This is, the end of May. So I have about 3 more months left in this space, and let's go ahead and make the most of it. So this video is basically me looking at charts for the first time in over 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks. I really didn't look at anything while I was gone, just more so update the current plays that I have. And I have been posting on Twitter for those that follow me, um, some of my thoughts, and I'm gonna go over those. But before I go into stuff, there are some more cautionary tales that we have to be aware of in this space. With the Bitcoin conference just finishing up, those things are always sell the news event. But the one thing that I want to put out there is, ETH has been putting its run in, right? Most of the coins over the past 2 to 3 weeks had a nice pump. And again, I'll say this confidently, I guess. If your coins haven't pumped in the last, month or two, well, month, then I'm sorry to say, but you're holding a bag of garbage, and I don't think it's going to pump. Yes, you may have, a funnel exit pump, but most of these coins won't go back to as high as that you think it will. And I'm just going to be standing by that comment. Um, as I've said, with the previous video that I've made that the highs were in for altcoins, I still do believe that most highs are in for these altcoins. This is a Bitcoin market and it will be treated as such. Now, when I go over this, I'm going to be referencing a period of time from December through January where I was openly bullish. Now, I'm not going to come out here and say like that nasally ass scammer Brandon Hong, which a lot of people are fantasizing about daily. That guy's a trash uh, analyst scammer who only wants you to join his Discord and charge you $500 for garbage. I'm going to tell you this and not brag about it, but there are times when you have to be, careful about how the markets are going to be, and this is one of those times. Now, Bitcoin literally has been up only $40,000 with no significant pullback. All right. And, with the events that have recently happened in the markets, like, the tariff pause from the US federal judges, with Trump's, tweeting and garbageness, um, don't be surprised to see a deeper correction in the markets, okay? And I've said this before, and last cycle we've had multiple 20% plus corrections on the uptrend, okay? So the macro is still bullish. We've had, like I said, we can go to a lower time frame for those that are just new and taking a look at my analysis, but on this whole entire like this, we had an 18% dump there, right? And this is after COVID. Again, we had 13% there, 30, 25, and so on and so forth. Okay, so these pullbacks are not random. Okay, people are taking profits. You can't just expect prices to continue up forever. That's not how it works. There are traders in this space and there are investors. So people that bought down here, of course, are going to take profits around all-time high. Now let's talk about Bitcoin. All right. So just like, let's talk with this this red line here. So this was the highs that we put in back in December. And then when Commander Cheeto came in, we SFP'd the highs, right? and then we dumped about 30%, right? Well, now this looks very similar. We have these highs that we just put in, or back in January, with these recent highs that we put in, and we SFP'd, and currently we are down 3%. Now, an SFP in an uptrend doesn't always mean we're going to have a deep retrace. This could be, this could be it. We could have 5%, we could have 10%, but currently, it's following the same trend that we had back about 5 months ago. So not only am I cautious because of this SFP, and this SFP can take some time to play out, right? Like, we didn't just dip immediately after we swing failured the first highs. It took like 2 or 3 months to do so. So if we do dip, yes, we could range here and go a little bit higher, but if we are going to follow the same fractal, then this is a good time to take profits if you are up on most of your coins. I'll be going over other stuff as well, but the other thing that I do want to mention, and I've had some trolls in my Twitter comments who don't understand what a divergence is. Okay, so we have a bearish divergence on the 2-week. All right, we had one back here with price making higher highs and RSI making lower highs. We had one here with price making higher highs and RSI making lower highs. Whoops. Okay. What I am personally looking for, and by the way, look what happened after a divergence played out, right? We dumped. We have another one, right? If this goes to a third drive, which is like this, and RSI goes into maybe another lower high, then I am inclined to say that this is probably the type of the top of our cycle. All right. Now, yes, we can go higher. Do I think Bitcoin is topped out? I don't think so yet, but this is where I would be cautious. And 2-week bearish divergences are very strong. For example, here is one on Sol that I called out in my video recently. Well, not recently, but back when this played out. Let's turn on RSI. Okay. So price here was making higher highs, while RSI was making lower highs. Okay, what happened afterwards? We dumped 7%. Okay, and this is a Bybit chart, but if we actually go back to here, I'll show you guys, so you guys know I'm not spitting shit out of my ass like Brandon Hong. Okay, price making higher highs, and RSI making lower highs. Okay, same thing happened over here. We dumped. Okay, so we have to be careful of this, and we're already dumping even more. That Bitcoin is at a very strong resistance here. Its previous all-time highs, so expecting a deep pullback is warranted. So I want you guys to just be aware of this. Now, not only this, but USDT dominance is showing a bullish divergence. Okay, so I again turn on RSI. You have price making lower lows and RSI making higher lows. Okay, so this is a bullish divergence, and we are at resistance here, and this looks like it wants to break out. Now, this could easily run into the supply zone here. Now, this is in a downtrend. Okay, so this is our last lower high here. If we do break above that and put in a higher low, then we do have a break of structure. But ultimately, I would like it to reject from this supply zone here and then continue to the downside. All right. That's what I'm looking for on USDT dominance. So all this put together, it shows that we have weakness in the markets, and with ETH just breaking out, and we'll cover it soon, going back into the range, it shows we're not ready for any significant move to the upside just yet, maybe a few more weeks. So I expect some chop here, some bearish chop, maybe even like a quick flush to liquidate the late longers or the early longers, and then go from there. All right. So if you did short the markets a little bit higher on that SFP, you had a good chance. It's too risky to do now. I would sit on your hands. I wouldn't short the markets. You're already late. But even if we take a look at Bitcoin dominance here, okay, now Bitcoin dominance is playing out the well, actually the targets of this cup and handle, right? We had the breakout, a perfect retest of the neckline of the cup and handle, and went higher. Now, if this rejects here, then this is putting a first lower high, and then we continue to the downside. So there's a reason why alts are holding relatively well on this Bitcoin dip, is because Bitcoin dominance is going down, Bitcoin is going down, so alts are relatively staying stable. Now, if Bitcoin can just increase with dominance going down and alts going down as well, or sorry, with dominance going down as well, then alts should see a relief rally into June or July. Okay. Now let's go take a look at Bitcoin, and the recent call I made in the Discord is, like I said, most of my stuff are going to be on Discord. This is where I would like to get filled on Bitcoin. All right. So basically from 106, 130 down to 105 is where I would like exposure. Now Bitcoin is putting a lower high. We had a sweep of the high. Let's go back to the perp chart really quickly. Okay. And let's use this chart actually. So Monday's range is already done. Okay, so here was the Monday high. We swept it. Here was the Monday low. We grabbed the liquidity and went higher. We rejected at the mid range. We have a very, very strong demand zone, basically from 105 down to 100. This is where we need to hold. Failure to hold this level, the support here at 100-ish, 101.6, would send us much lower. Now let's go back to a higher time frame here. We can see why this is a very crucial level to hold. Okay, if we lose this level, then this is just another deviation, just like we had here. Okay, and then we continue to the downside. And like I said, 30% dips are common from the highs. So a 30% dip, if we were to get it, would send us back to this 80K region, which, I don't think that we get anytime soon, but you just have to have both, scenarios ready for and planned for. Okay, so 105 to 101 is the key level to hold for now. Otherwise, we have this demand zone from 96 to 93. And then, like I said, lose that, then we have this 80K region, this demand zone, which all of these are, doesn't mean that we're not going to fill them, but all of these can and, eventually will be filled. All right. So the bearish argument right now is bearish divergence on the 2-week. Okay, USDT dominance having a bullish divergence and showing upside potential, and Bitcoin looking weak after we put in a lower high. All right, so in my um, defense, in my position, this is where I would be playing defense. If I'm up on positions that I bought down here, whatever altcoin it is, this is where I'd be looking to take profits. Again, alts are holding relatively stable, but in the event that we have a Bitcoin nuke, you could see a 5 to 10% flush around the market. So just be aware of that. All right. This is where I'd be looking to buy Bitcoin and then spread my bids all the way down to 80K if we get it. Right. Let's take a look at ETH. Now, ETH is a little bit confusing because we had this ascending triangle. Okay, the targets or the technical targets of this ascending triangle are around 33 or 3250. Okay, now we can go on a higher time frame and we can see that this is going to be a very strong supply zone. All right, so this is the technical targets. Now, another thing on ETH is we just swept the highs, okay? And if we are unable to get above 2750 today, which is going to be very highly unlikely, then we have an SFP of the internal highs. So this tells me that we will probably go a little bit lower as well. But ETH is just range bound for now. Okay, so here is the range that I'm looking for on ETH. Okay, here's actually the resistance point. So going back down to this support around 2400, as long as we are above 2400, we are good. But is a very strong possibility that we could go back to 2400 as well. Now we can draw fibs from these lows to these highs, and a potential area for a bounce is going to be this 2500 golden pocket point. So a potential setup does remain on there, but this one is a little bit tricky because if we do go there, we hope that it's going to be a wick like this. Otherwise, we have lost the trend. Okay, so this could be a very strong reversal point on a lower time frame, but I'd rather set bids at the range low level. Maybe you could front run at the 786 fib and play the range as such. Now, again, we have untapped liquidity down here. So what you can do is a few options. You could set limit orders here with a very small amount in the hopes that we go and run these lows and then come back above. Then you can add more to your position and play your stop loss that way. That is a conditional trade. Well, it's a limit plus a conditional. The reason for the small amount is because if we close back below under this range low level, you could cut your loss for a small amount. Otherwise, you could just wait for that SFP to happen and play conditionally. But this is what I'm currently looking at for potential scalps on ETH. Okay, would I short the range highs here again? Probably not, because like I said, ETH is holding relatively well compared to Bitcoin. So in the event that we do break out, I mean, it is range highs, it is an SFP. So if we do close, okay, let's say we close something like here, then this would be your SFP setup. Am I taking this one? Absolutely not. You also have the options to take the short at the range highs again with stops above the wick and play it down to the range lows. Okay, now this would be a much stronger setup compared to this one, but both are an option, and you have about 4 different setups here. Alternatively, break above the range highs here and flip it to support, then you'd long with stop somewhere down below there. Okay, again, we could also bounce the trend line as well. The trend is your friend until broken, and we've already had 4 touches from it. So we have a demand zone here as well. So a touch at the trend line also does make sense. So there's a whole bunch of ways to look at this. Okay. Now Sol's interesting because let's go back to the perp chart. Okay. Sol is interesting because it's basically breaking, or not breaking, but knocking on this resistance here. Okay. Very, very strong rejection points here. Okay, we flipped it to support and we kept it. If we get above 184, then it's a long. Okay, and probably back to the highs. That's if we get above. Okay, that is a conditional play. Otherwise, Sol is just ranging here. Okay, now again, another cautionary tale here is we have our first lower high. So we had, uh, an uptrend with higher highs and lows. Okay, and then we went up into a lower high. So this is potentially a move to the downside on Sol, and we could do something like this, where we just make another flag or a falling wedge type structure before we have that move to the upside. Now this consolidation under resistance in a downtrend, or sorry, in an uptrend, and Sol is currently on an uptrend, is what you want to see for continuation to the upside. Okay, so this is, whoops. This is a potential possibility. Okay. I will be buying Sol down to basically the 153 mark. But like I said, you have a demand zone here, which it could possibly go test. So there is a potential setup there. Okay. And on a lower time frame, this is another range bound trade. Okay. So a potential setup remains within this order block here. And you could do a potential long with stops below the wick, or wait for this sweep of this liquidity down here and long if it recovers. But bearish outlook, double top here. Here is the support that we need to hold. If it loses that, then it's going down to this demand zone here. All right. Sol is my bet for a breakout if we get it. If we get a flip, I think this will go parabolic, but I think the market needs some time to cool down after it just had a huge rip last week. Okay. Um, Another strong coin is Sui. Okay, so before I hear, like what about the clitoris hack or whatever it's called, CETUS, um, um, everything is in the charts. Right, so we had the breakdown of this falling wedge. We had the perfect retest, and this is where it happened when you had the hack news or whatever the protocol is called. All right, we went down 15%. Now, fundamental news doesn't really affect technical analysis. It just moves the agenda faster. So we had the breakdown, right? We closed below. There's the retest. We retested and closed below. And the technical targets for this move to the downside, I think, has already almost been met. All right. So, um, very strong level. If we can reclaim $4, we will go higher. But this is what I want to see on Sui. Okay, so strong resistance at $4 level mark. We have untapped liquidity here. I can see us going back down here and sweeping these lows. Everyone will call this a head and shoulders, right? They will start to short down here. Okay, so that is a potential area where you could add, and this is one of my DCA levels. Otherwise, a retest of this breakout point here is another strong suit to add more to your longs if we get a market-wide, correction even further. Okay, so I would most likely set longs on the sweep, or if we do go back down there, there is support, so you can add to your spot positions there. But we just are putting in another higher low here, so this could continue to go to the upside. Now, not just that, but we do have some type of falling wedge or a channel here, just like we did here before the breakout, like we did here, here, and so on and so forth. So the level that we need to hold before any continued further price action to the downside is this $3.45. It was previously, resistance. We broke out, flipped it to support. If we do continue to test it and break down even further, this is the level to watch, and I'd be looking for the sweeps around the $3 mark for positioning myself into longs to the upside. All right. Um, Now, outside of other coins, the only one that's in my radar is Hype. Um, I got this for the fam around $18.48. This put in a 2x very swiftly, and what I'm looking for, I mean, depending on how you want to draw the trend line, is had a perfect retest of this trend line here, but this looks very weak to me. Okay, so if we can get any move under basically, so here is our resistance, right? Any move under $30 is a steal. I would love to get 28 down to 23. That's where I'd be looking to buy. Again, this would be another higher low if we get it. Okay, you can draw whatever trend line you want. This is a very good area to get some. So if price allows us to go into that 28 point, let's front run it just a little bit, but basically 28.6 down to $23 level, that's where I'd be looking to get back in. Otherwise, we need to get back above this 35.60 level and I'd be okay. Now the one thing that we have to be very cautious of with hype is if we take a look at the monthly here. This is a spot chart, but let's take a look at this. Okay, so the monthly, if it closes like this and it closes in 2 days, if we close below this 35.6 level, then we have an SFP. As we've seen multiple times in various examples that I provided, SFPs usually lead to the downside. Okay, so we could go back to retest it, and this is why I said that 35.6 level is very important. If we go to retest it, that is a possible entry for a short. Okay, this is a bearish Quasimodo pattern. You have higher high with a low, you have a higher high. This is your last. We put in a lower high. So again, any movements back into that 35.6 level, okay, and probably DCA up to 37 could provide a nice short opportunity back down to that under 30, sub 30 level. All right. So these are the only coins that I'm currently looking at. Now, like I said, I prefer to play defense over here than trying to get into multiple positions. I've already, positioned myself for the move down. And this is, again, another opportunity to tell you guys, if you're not buying spot when coins are down, I don't know, let's say like from highs to lows down 20%, well, 18% now, right? Highs to lows, this is down 10%. Bitcoin is down 3%. And so on. So like Sui's down like 15%. If you're not taking opportunities to slowly DCA into positions, and then you complain about, the pullback, the pullback, the pullback, and we actually don't pull back to the levels that you think we're going to, then it's on you. All right. Um, Slowly DCing into position on the downside is going, and it's okay if we continue to go further down, but what if we don't? So having exposure in the event that we don't go, um, you know, to the downside we expect to, at least having exposure in the event that we go up, this is, your opportunity to, get back into the market if you've sold much higher or slowly start to build positions over the course of weeks to months. And it's okay to be underwater in spot positions. A lot of people freak out when their positions go red. You have no liquidation price on spot. So having spot exposure in any market is crucial on the strong coins. So, holding garbage coins in the trenches or whatever is not going to get you the comfortability of holding, say, hype or soul or these high cap coins. So stop holding garbage and actually hold these high cap coins, even though they're a little bit more expensive, they will be safer in the event of any down or drawdown. So that's it for me. This is mostly a comeback video of going over a few coins and taking a look very briefly, but um, be patient on these next couple of weeks because I do think eventually with dominance, Bitcoin dominance going down, we get one small flush in the markets and then we resume up. Now we do have tariff headlines, something to watch there. The market really loved when, you know, there was a hold on the liberation, quote unquote, tariffs. No one seems to like Trump. I definitely can tell you people in the EU don't like Trump. But if it if their ruling does, you know, end up being upheld, then that is a plus for the markets. All right. So again, like I said before, and I'll say it one last time, markets do not like uncertainty. If there are any traces of uncertainty over the course of the next few weeks, the markets will chop and people will sell in panic. So if you yourself are uncertain of the markets right now and would rather wait for a clear direction, then I would hold off on leverage until the chop is done. This is why I continue to say have some exposure in the spot market just in the event that we do go higher. Um, but that's enough rambling from me. I will see you guys next week with the video.